indeed green? Are you an ultimate Eagles football fan? Well, you're in the right place. This is Birds 365, hosted by the new Mac and Mac, Jody McDonald and John McMullen.
Here we go!
Who collectively have covered and talked about more than 50 plus years of Eagles football. Kick off your day with Birds 365. You'll get debate.
We love to argue.
You'll get the real story from inside the locker room. And you'll hear from some of the great football minds from around the region. You're about to become an Eagles insider. Get in the game. Join Jody Mack and Johnny Mack and join the football community that flocks to Birds 365. Birds 365 starts right now.
Welcome to the NFL. Let's go! Let's go! Go!
It's a back-to-work Tuesday after a nice long holiday weekend. Yes, we're back to work here on Birds 365. If you're heading back to work today after a long weekend, don't work too hard. And believe it or not, the Philadelphia Eagles are back to work today. Gonna get some grass time in.
First day of phase 3 OTAs, the on-field stuff, Jody. We won't be there. And by we, I say the media, but first day. So back to work. Happy Tuesday, as Jonathan Gannon might say.
Good for Jonathan Gannon. Good for the Philadelphia Eagles. The fact that they are getting back onto the field is nice to know, seeing as the baseball team in town is going in the tank altogether too quickly. Yes, the attention may be focusing even more than usual on the Philadelphia Eagles, and that the beam is usually pretty bright with this football team, and it should be this year because they've had as good an off season as they've had. Yes, you guys not allowed in. Thursday is going to be your first day. Grass time?
Friday, I believe.
Friday.
Okay.
You gotta wait till Friday. All right.
Still waiting for the schedule as usual, but tentative Friday.
Tentatively, you're actually going to be able to get out there Friday, but the Birds will get together and actually do some physical activities. It's OTAs, training activities. What do you think these activities will include, Mr. McMullen?
Well, Nick Sirianni told us no team drills, no 11-on-11. So it's going to be a bunch of 7-on-7 drills and, individual work before that. So, really, it's always hard when you're running around in shirts and shorts, even in a typical old school, let's call it football mindset, to get any feeling on the offensive line, the defensive linemen, the running backs, all these physical positions. But you can get a feel for the quarterbacks and the skill position, the receivers, the corners, and things like that. And the other guys, they got to wait till July, really, to get the pads on for the few times they can get the pads on. Then you can see the physicality show through. But we all know, look, the strength of this team, I would argue pretty clearly, is the offensive line. And then if you would say, well, what's the second? I'd probably say the defensive line. And I'm including the Sam linebackers in that, the Hassan Reddicks of the world. I'm including them in the defensive line. So, I'm not as worried about the offensive and defensive lines. Not even that worried about running back, to be honest, other than, is Miles Sanders ever going to turn into what people thought he was going to turn into? But he's going to be a good player. The question is how good, how much improvement are you going to see from Kenneth Gainwell? Are the Eagles going to have to go back to the crutch of Boston Scott? Those are questions, I guess, Jody, but they're not really concerns because they can do it. They have the contingency plan in place. The offensive line is so good. Jody McDonald could run for 4 yards of carry behind it.
Let's not get carried away.
I think you could. 4 yards. I got 4 yards. Miles was at 5.5.
My wheels ain't what they used to be. I would go under on the 4 yard over under there, big guy.
Obviously, I'm exaggerating. We're not going to do it, but any NFL running back is going to be able to do it. And so that's part of the reason I'm not concerned about that. So the things you have to learn about are the things you're able to work on. So I guess if you look at it that way, it's a positive. But, Nick's on record saying it's all about player health and safety, yada, 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 get to week 1 as healthy as possible. We're going to be here in training camp, hopefully, Jody, and we're going to say, nobody's playing in the preseason games because they have to join practices. That's where all the veterans are going to get their work. And we said it last year with Jalen Hurts. I don't expect him to play 1 snap. I'm predicting him right now. He didn't play last year. Why the heck would he play this year when he's somewhat proven? So, we're going to show up week 1 in Detroit, similar to last year, not knowing what to fully expect would be my prediction.
But Jalen Hurts will be playing in those all-important dual practices with the Browns and with the Dolphins, where the Eagles are expected to go undefeated since they did last year, 4-0 in their dueling practices. We're still a ways away from that. And I was looking up today, John, about roster size because 90 guys expected to be in. Is it 89? Did the Eagles get up to 90? I know they had an extra space.
They're at 90 now, so they're at the full bore. And if they bring somebody in, they'd have to release somebody now. So they're at 90. You go down to 53. You have a 16-man practice squad. They lock that in, so we're keeping the pandemic so-called practice squad. And you are allowed some veterans still on the practice squad, so that's helpful. Some injured reserve changes, 4 games instead of 3 games. Number 1, 8 guys can return. Man, back in the day, you couldn't bring anybody back off injured reserve. Now you can bring 8 guys. So a lot more sort of maneuverability for GMs and head coaches around the league when it comes to rosters in the NFL. I don't know. Do you like that? Or do you not like it? I'm kind of torn.
Well, here's why I would say I would like it from an Eagle perspective if I were an Eagle fan and I were analyzing my entire organization right now. If you think Howie Roseman is a good roster guy, if you think he's good around the margins, because that's what it is, because we're talking about 90 cut down to less because of the expanded practice squad, the ability to juggle and analyze and scout, self-scouting, do your own team, and have guys ready to step in. We're talking about, quote unquote, the fringes. If you're talking about being able to go back. If you think you've got a general manager, it's only 1 year that we judge the relationship between the general manager and the coaches in putting together the roster and maneuvering the roster. It's 90% on the GM, but the coach certainly should have opinions and be involved in the conversation. If you think you've got a good GM and you think the GM and the coach has a good relationship, the more flexibility you can get your hands on, the better. And I would say that is one of Howie Roseman's strong suits, that he is a good around the margins kind of guy. And so far, so good between he and Sirianni. So, yeah, any extra flexibility that's built into the rules around the National Football League, I would believe that it behooves the Philadelphia Eagles.
Yeah, I would agree with that. We talk about loopholes all the time, whether they're salary cap loopholes, on the field loopholes. If you could take advantage of those situations, the Eagles are one of those teams that's kind of known for taking advantage of those types of situations. So, we've been talking about guys before James Bradbury came in, for instance. We talked a lot about Tate Gowan. He's a guy, Eagles were able to pick up, and they've talked about Kerry Vincent and all the corners the young corners they were able to bring in. Who knows? Maybe one of them turns into a player down the road. That's what you're hoping for. Maybe we see the same thing at safety later in the summer. Still talking about that. What are the Eagles going to do? They're going to stand pat. June 1st is coming tomorrow. That's a big demarcation line in the NFL offseason. can make things a little bit easier when you're trying to pull off trades and things of that nature. So we're still going to be talking about Jesse Bates until Jesse Bates gets, something done with Cincinnati, I would imagine. So yeah, there's still time, and Howie says it all the time. Talent gathering season, continues really up to the trade deadline.
But
in the regular season.
June 1st, talk about it, changing rules in the NFL. June 1st isn't as big a date as it used to be because they now have with June 1st designation for contracts and all. It used to be you had to wait till June 1st until June 1st came and went before you made a move that gave you cap flexibility, allowed you to cut a guy, spread it out over 2 years. Oh, you can do that in advance now. You can do it in like February if you want. But you
can do it in February. You can do it in February, but what you do have to wait for the room. So I'll give you an example. Brandon Brooks retired. Comes June 1st is when this money comes off. Fletcher Cox is probably a better example. When he redid his deal, like the Eagles knew the salary cap relief that they were going to get by redoing the deal was coming, but it wasn't coming until June 1st. So it doesn't take into effect until June 1st. Now, to use Bates as an example, I forget what the salary cap is, what the franchise tag is for him. It's over $11 million.
Is 11 and change, high 11s, I think.
Yeah, it's somewhere in that range. I believe the Eagles don't have 11 plus million in salary cap space right now. So they will June 1st. So for instance, that's a deal that can't be done until after June 1st for this reason. Now, everyone correctly assumes that the Eagles were to make that sort of trade, they're going to redo the deal, which they are. But for bookkeeping purposes, you have to fit him under your cap first, under his franchise tag, and then redo the deal. So could be 5 minutes, but you have to have that original space to make the deal. And obviously he would have to sign his franchise tender. So he would count against that cap. Might be for 2 minutes, might be for 1 minute, might be for 60 seconds. But you need that space originally. Eagles don't have it today. They will have it tomorrow. So
fair enough. That's one of the reasons why June 1st is a key date. You're talking about minutes. I did see this morning, John, and it just made me laugh. Shame, I probably should have known it ahead of time. But in the last collective bargaining, we've been talking about it in vague terms, and the Eagles are one of those teams that never come close to getting called on the carpet because they've overextended practices. These practices right now used to be that it was a maximum of 2 hours for any off-season OTAs, off-season training activities. Now it's even tiered that the first couple of days you're only allowed 90 minutes. The next couple of days you're allowed 105 minutes, which would be an hour and 45 minutes for those of you who are struggling with the conversion. I was. And then, the last couple of days you can get all the way up to 2 full hours of activities in. They have this defined down to the minute.
Yeah. And this is, again, where the Eagles, Jody, are ahead of the curve. All right. They already been doing this. Whether they knew it was coming, and they probably did, and we joked about it last offseason about the length of the training camp practices. It's the way the league's going. You might as well get used to it. You might as well be ahead of the curve. You might as well try to get the most out of the time allotted as humanly possible. And really, I've talked about this with veteran coaches a lot. A lot of veteran coaches don't like it, bang their head against the wall. And that's all fine and good. And I agree with them in general principle, but it doesn't matter. That's the rules. You got to do the best you can with what is given to you. You can complain about it afterwards and say, this stinks, blah, 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 whatever. And I'll agree with you. But I want somebody who's going to take advantage of what is available, not complain about what isn't available. And that's where I think the Eagles have been sort of ahead of the game. But
Yeah,
I don't like it.
They have this pesky thing, game days during the NFL, that they call like the rules there too. Play 60 minutes, can't jump off. There are rules in everything in life. So no matter how much you may or may not like the rules, it always pays to follow them and stay within them. So the Eagles are doing just that. Yeah, I'm going to complain. You can complain. I'm going to complain loudly, even though I don't make it down for even grass time. But still, I know what the National Football League used to be. I think a little more work wouldn't hurt anybody. I know the reason why it is reduced, because the owners grab and claw every single penny in every collective bargaining agreement, and they got to give something. Oh, less practice players, and the players take it and move on with it. But I would like to see a little bit more work put in. It doesn't matter. The rules are in place. You got to follow them. The Eagles will follow the rules this week and not get overly taxed by the OTAs that they've got in place. But it's nice the Eagles get back out on the field. That's what Mac and I are going to be talking about for the rest of the week. And we're going to have good guests jump aboard to give us extra insight on that, including starting next, John Stolnis, still doing some writing for Bleeding Green Nation, his podcast, Eye on the Enemy, a good listen for all you Birds fans out there. John Stolnis joins us next here on Birds 365.
Field of life, First Trust Bank is there for you.
Champions on three. 1, 2, 3.
Because Philadelphia dreams deserve a Philadelphia bank.
Do you stream on a Roku, Fire Stick, Android TV, or Apple TV? Now you can watch 6ABC 24/7 with the 6ABC Philadelphia streaming app.
The big story on Action News.
Search 6ABC Philadelphia and start streaming today.
In Philadelphia, we celebrated the miracle with pride only 5 years ago. And then the following morning, IBEW Local 98 members went back to work, building this city, rescuing our communities from decay, and inspiring the young men and women of the region to take pride in who we are. Like the Cats, Local 98 members believe in hope.
To learn more about who we are, what we do, and career opportunities with Local 98, visit us, IBEW98.org.
At Stateside Vodka, every new customer gets the world's best rocks glass. Free.
What's that?
A rocks glass?
You're telling me that bottle is cut in half?
You could say that.
Holy shit. Glass is for cocktails, right?
It's for this, this, and that.
Is the length of the glass equal to your...
You betcha.
But is it made out of...
Glass?
Okay, but is the rip...
Smooth?
Will you stop doing...
That?
I'm the professional here.
And you're telling me I can get one of these glasses for free?
That's right. 1 free rocks glass per customer with each first-time purchase of Stateside Vodka. All from the company that's highly awarded. 0 carbs, 0 sugar, and deliciously tasting vodka. So good, it just disappears.
Tuesday edition of Birds 365. You got your Mac guys, McMullen and McDonald, talking about the Birds on the field. Yeah, the Birds are going to be on the field today for about 37 seconds. No, just kidding. Not heavy work, but nice to get the Birds back on the field. You know, to talk about the Eagles, and we haven't had him on since the draft, and we do want to get his take on the entire Howie Roseman offseason. John Stolnis, contributor for Bleeding Green Nation, and also podcast co-host for Eye on the Enemy. John, how's your summer going so far?
It's going good so far. I mean, I'm a Phillies fan too, so I mean that just wish we had some live sports that were interesting, but I think that just gears us up for the birds, right?
Yeah. It's funny, John, because I think the rest of the teams in Philadelphia have all gotten into a sort of conspiracy to make things easier for the Eagles.
Yeah.
Because evidently they all want to. Not that it's hard for the Eagles, yeah.
Right.
But they make it easier. They somehow make it easier. So I agree with you. And it's tough to get through. And that's why on-field work is exciting, even though it's not exciting. And the Eagles are not going to do team drills. So Nick Sirianni's already confirmed it's scaled back to 7-on-7s, pretty much only individual work. I want to get into, and we'll be there Friday, reporters, so we'll get to see some of it on Friday. But to me, this is list season, and I've seen a lot of, I don't know if they're interesting lists, but call them what you want. So I want to get your take on some of those. And
okay,
it starts with Pro Football Focus last week. Jody and I talked about this a little bit. They put their 3 best players for each team, 3 best pure football players.
Mm-hmm.
For the Philadelphia Eagles, I want John Stolnis's 3 best pure football players, not value of position, not helping you win, just who does their job the best.
It's funny you mentioned lists. I kind of did a list similar to this a couple of weeks ago where I ranked the 10 best players in the NFC East. And I believe, if I'm remembering it correctly, I had 3 Eagles on that list. I had Jordan Mailata on that list. I had A.J. Brown on that list, and I had Darius Slay on that list. And I think all 3 of those guys, because it's so hard to compare positions, right? An offensive lineman does totally different things and is a totally different kind of player than a cornerback, and they're both totally different from the kind of skills a wide receiver has. So you're comparing different skill sets between all these different guys. And so Jordan Mailata just has that size and the natural freak athletic ability to be able to have never played football before and then come here and in a few years be able to play it at the highest level possible. And then you've got a guy like Brown, who is a playmaking wide receiver. He's got such amazing body control that he can do so much across the middle of the field, combined with toughness and good hands. And then you've got in Darius Slay, a guy who, if you just look at strict cover ability last year in single coverage, was the best cornerback in the NFL according to quarterback ratings. So those are my 3. Those are the 3 that I had on the list. But I think you could make an argument that Lane Johnson should be on there. You could even still make an argument that Jason Kelce should be on there somewhere. There's a few guys you could make an argument for as far as top 3, because comparing positions is difficult and tricky.
Yeah, I think Pro Football Focus, correct me if I'm wrong, John, had Mailata, Brown, and Johnson were their 3. So you're right. The Eagles, the fact that the Eagles have a couple of guys you can debate means the Eagles are in pretty good position. There are some teams where you go, really? I got to come up with a third? You're pushing me for 3 here? The Eagles have a couple of guys that you can actually put into that. John mentioned this in the first segment, strength of the Eagles being offensive line. And if Lane Johnson and Jordan Mailata are 2 or 3, that kind of speaks to the offensive line. They added even more, taking Juergens in the draft here, this past draft, the eventual center taking over for Jason Kelce, and who knows when we'll do this dance with Jason Kelce for as many years as he wants to do it, to stick around and play. How good is the Eagles' offensive line compared to everyone else in the National Football League? Can you take a stance? They're the best, top 3, top 5. How would you rank the Eagles' offensive line against the rest of the league?
I would feel comfortable saying top 5. I think that, the Cowboys' offensive line is still really good too. If they're healthy, I think it's a real battle between those two. But the key is the Cowboys' offensive line being healthy. Now, the Eagles have had their share of injuries on the offensive line in recent seasons too. Last year was a pretty good year, with the exception of Brandon Brooks going down in the preseason. But I think the Eagles certainly, have a top 5 offensive line in the NFL. You look at the tackle spots, which are just so hugely important with Johnson and Mailata protecting Jalen Hurts on each side. And Kelce is still doing it, at his age. He's still as mobile as ever, getting downfield, helping the run game. And I think, at the guard position, they've got some good young talent there. They've got some promising guys. I think it's a unit that, with Jeff Stoutland as their coach too, continues to improve. He's just incredible at getting these guys to get better at the NFL level, which is difficult. I mean, you often think about players when they come out of college that's pretty much what they are. But Stoutland is a guy who really does develop NFL offensive linemen into guys who can be productive starters. So with Sayamalo there, and you've got Landon Dickerson, who just had a really solid rookie season at guard. I think it's a really good unit, and I think you might be able to put them in the top 3. I think top 5 is where I would have them right now.
Yeah, in fact, we were talking about lists. There was another list. I'll try to look it up in the break. I just saw last week that did have the Eagles number 1 as far as offensive line. But you're right, John. There's always a couple teams. Cleveland still has a really good offensive line, even though J.C. Tretter's still out there, and maybe his status as the NFLPA president is affecting his ability to be signed, because he's still a top 5 center in this league. Tampa Bay, even though they lost Alex Kappa and Ali Marpet, they were able to bring in Shaq Mason, who might be better than both of them at guard. So they're still really good. So there's a few teams. Kansas City's really good as well. Baltimore, especially if Ronnie Stanley comes back. But the Eagles are firmly in that top 5. I don't think there's any doubt about it. The one, perhaps concern is right guard, which is going to be one of the few, and this is also a good sign in my mind, John, is the fact that as we head towards training camp, there's not going to be a ton of positional battles. You kind of know who's going to be where. That to me is a good thing. Right guard, though, you have Isaac Sayamalo trying to flip over. You have Jack Driscoll, who played very well. Both are injury prone. If I had to pin you down and say who's going to win that right guard spot, is it going to be one of those two, or is it going to be a Cam Jurgens? Is it going to be a Tesla stock, a Suo Opeta? Who's going to be starting right guard for the Eagles?
It's great that they have so much balance there, and I think it's going to be Sayamalo if he can stay healthy. I think he's got so many years under Stoutland already. I think when he's healthy, plays pretty well. He's certainly not a weak link. I mean, I guess if you look at how good the other guys on the offensive line, he probably is the weakest of the 5, but he's a good player. I don't see, unless he really looks like he's lost a step somehow, or there's some kind of other issue going on with him, I think he probably is the leader in the clubhouse to win the right guard job. Now, Jack Driscoll has shown that he's a very capable fill-in and could probably start in this league, and probably will at some point start for the Eagles. But I think it's Sayamalo's job to lose right now.
Agreed. All right, let me ask you about the safety position, because it's the one area that the Eagles haven't really brought in anybody from outside. Howie Roseman's had a real good offseason, acquiring free agents. Certainly the draft worked out well. Even the undrafted free agents they signed, people said that they're one of the best at their position. So a lot of kudos for Howie Roseman. He's going with what he's got at safety, and that includes more playing time for Marcus Epps. Anthony Harris coming back to be Anthony Harris, which last year was okay at best. I think everyone is just waiting for another shoe to drop, and that the Eagles will do something at safety to upgrade, because Howie's upgraded everywhere else. You think that happens, or do you think they are willing to go back to war with the guys that they had at the safety position last year?
I think they actually do like what they have at safety. I mean, you heard a lot of conversation during the offseason about how much they liked all the young cornerbacks that they had, but their actions will tell you exactly what they mean. And I think so far, I mean, we've seen them, they have tried to upgrade the safety position. I mean, they had conversations with Tyrann Mathieu. So, I mean, it's clear that I think they would upgrade if the right opportunity came along. I don't think they want to pour the money into the position. I feel like, it's one of those things where they would figure out a way to bring another safety on if they really wanted to spend the money on it, if they didn't like Marcus Epps and if they didn't like what they had there in Anthony Harris. So I think now June 1st here is a big date on the NFL calendar. Once you get past the state, trades are a little bit more likely because you can spread some of the money around into future years. And so that might you might start to see the safety market for the Eagles move a little bit if they do decide that they want to upgrade there. But I think I also don't want to eliminate all young players, from this defense. They do have a fair amount of young guys that they drafted on the defensive line and a linebacker, but it's a very veteran group in the secondary. And I wouldn't mind seeing a guy like Marcus Epps get a shot and see what he can do, especially if getting a safety is going to really hammer you with the cap. But we'll see what happens here with June 1st, coming around tomorrow and whether they decide to make a move. But I feel like they really do like Marcus Epps. I think they want to see if he can win the job.
Another young player I want to talk about, John, is Jalen Reagor. For this reason, June 1st on field, but off the field, Jalen went, obviously, the NFL as a whole. Jeff Gladney, who was a teammate of Jalen Reagor, TCU, they were both first-round picks in, I believe, 2020. 2020. It tragically passed away in an auto accident. Jalen was very close to him. I think people forget last year he missed the first, I think it was 3 or 4 days of training camp because one of his childhood friends died. So we always talk about the on-the-field stuff with Jalen Reagor, but he's gone through a lot off the field as well. And all while he's trying to sort of save his NFL career here in Philadelphia. It doesn't look good from a depth chart standpoint. We look at, obviously, the top 3, A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, Quez Watkins, Zach Pascal from there as a Nick Sirianni favorite. You still have Greg Ward. But this team does need a kick returner. It's not as important as it once was.
Right.
Both elements, punt returner, kick returner. Jalen was sort of the first option for the team. Again, not necessarily successful. Is Jalen Reagor going to be here at the start of training camp, John?
Man, that is a great question. And because I don't think Jalen Reagor can be the punt returner and kick returner last year. He really struggled in those roles. And I don't think that they should go into this season with somebody who's that unproven or has proven to be that shaky at doing that job. Again, with June 1st, I think it's a little bit easier for teams to maybe make a trade for Jalen Reagor, who's still on his rookie contract, but as a first-round pick, then the money's a little bit more than it would be if it was for a lower-round pick. So you might see Reagor move in the next few weeks and months, and especially if there's any receivers that go down on other teams, they might come calling. I feel like you got to get something else at kick returner and punt returner because that's not a position you have to throw a lot of money at anyway. So it wouldn't hurt the Eagles cap to go out and get somebody. And I'll be honest with you, I don't know who's out there that they could go and get to return punts and kicks. And maybe there's an in-house option that we're not thinking of. But
Britton Kobe, John, great punt returner at Utah, but he's also, I think 5'8", 160 pounds.
Yeah,
he's not very big.
It's Jeremy Bloom like, right? Remember how excited we were about Jeremy Bloom a while back? Yeah.
Yes.
So, I mean, I think they have to do a little bit better there because you're right. Kick returns, it doesn't really matter all that much. Everything's a touchback nowadays. But punt returns are still a big deal. You need somebody back there you can depend on. That is a really hard job. And Jalen Reagor just didn't appear to be very comfortable doing it last year. So I tend to think he won't be on this team once training camp rolls around.
All right, John, I want to ask you about the general mindset of this first true group gathering, get some activities in, even if it's not real football, where the Eagles' collective mind is at. Coming off last year, the year before they had been 4-11-1.
Right.
Not too many people picked them to make the playoffs last year, and they did. Winning record 9-7 before the JV played against the Cowboys. So I considered them a 9-7, not a 9-8 team last year. But they did what they did. But then they got their clock cleaned by Tampa Bay in that first round playoff game. How good is the mindset of this team coming in? If you're looking to build off what you did last year, certainly more good than bad, but kind of a clunker of an ending, is the overall mindset for this group, as many coming back as there are, in a good place, in your opinion?
I think it is, because before the draft, before they made the trade for A.J. Brown, before they went and added all these different players, and before they got Bradbury, the 22 team was looking a whole lot like the 21 team. And in that scenario, I don't know that they would have felt great about their chances in 2022. But they've added a ton of talent here in the last month or so, and they've really filled some holes. I think that they have increased the floor. The level of competence in the secondary increased dramatically when they brought Bradbury aboard. And so you've got really two sure things at cornerback, three sure things, quarterback 1, 2, and 3. You know, Avonte Maddox is a quality slot corner. I think you feel really good about your pass defense as far as covering wide receivers is concerned. And really, safety is the only area on the defense that, like you said, there isn't going to be a big training camp battle. They actually invested in linebacker. They've invested in the defensive line. I think that could be a strength for them. And, you know, maybe now Jonathan Gannon has the tools at his disposal to do what he wanted to do, things he couldn't do last year. Offensively, I think getting A.J. Brown here really makes it a legitimate passing game now. You're not going to have Jalen Reagor on the field for 60% of the offensive snaps, or however many it was last year, which was entirely too many. You're not going to be relying on John Hightower to try and squeeze a square peg into a round hole and hoping that you find something. So, and you know, with the running back situation, I still think they need another running back. They haven't replaced Jordan Howard yet, but it's kind of easy to find a running back during the summer and once training camp rolls around. So it all comes down to Jalen Hurts. Can Jalen Hurts do this? Can Jalen Hurts use all these new weapons at his disposal to make this a viable passing offense? You have got to have a viable passing offense in this league to be successful. And until he shows that, I don't think we know for a fact whether or not this team is going to be a top 10 team like Peter King seems to think that they are. But the potential is there, and he's got the tools at his disposal. All the excuses are gone. And if you're an Eagle in that locker room and you're looking around and you see what Howie Roseman did this offseason, I think you have to feel good about your chances of being one of the favorites in the NFC East here. I think it's going to be a neck and neck battle with the Cowboys all season long. But I think you've at least, outside the quarterback position, I think the Eagles roster is better than the Cowboys roster. But that quarterback position is so important, and we'll see whether or not Hurts is up to the job.
It is, and I agree with you, John. I said from 2 through 53, to me, it looks like the Eagles are the better team, at least on paper now, than the Dallas Cowboys. But hey, quarterback 1 is what it is. Arguably the most important position in sports. You might say starting pitcher on a particular day in baseball, but it's in the conversation.
Yeah.
So let's talk about Jalen Hurts, and I'll continue with my list theme. You know, obviously Chris Sims, a lot of people got upset about him last week. What was he, 25, Jody? Jalen Hurts on 25th. I think that was a little harsh of Chris Sims, but who cares? I did see Dan Orlovsky came out today. He listed his quarterbacks, as he described it, you win games because of right now. And the list was 11 deep. And obviously Jalen Hurts is not on that list, shouldn't be on that list. My question to you, can he be on that list? Is the upside, you mentioned the floor of this team being higher, is the upside of Jalen Hurts the ability to make that Dan Orlovsky list somewhere down the line?
I would say I'm more pessimistic than optimistic that he can be that guy, simply because we didn't see a guy in college who lit it up throwing the football. And so you come to the NFL level where it's more difficult for sure to throw the football. We haven't seen Jalen Hurts be able to throw the ball over the middle of the field with any regularity or effectiveness. And so I think we have to see that before we know that. I think he had a good season last year. But that came mostly because of his running ability. He had some games where he threw the ball really well, and there were glimpses last year when you would see him do some things where you could say, okay, the wheels are turning here. There is something there. But we also don't often see quarterbacks make a big leap as a passer at the NFL level. I mean, Josh Allen is one, but Josh Allen was also a great thrower in college. And so, you know, he came to the NFL level and struggled, but then really worked at it and has turned into one of the best passing quarterbacks in the league. I don't know that we shouldn't expect Jalen Hurts to do anything like what Josh Allen did. We just need Jalen Hurts to be a competent thrower, somebody who can throw the football over the middle of the field and beat good defenses from time to time. And until that happens, I can't put him on that list. I think the odds are probably better not then they are good that he becomes one of those passing quarterbacks. But I think the ability is there. It's whether or not he can unlock it.
All right, John, I need you to handicap Eagle Nation for me because I host shows here in town, talk to Eagle fans all the time. We'll do it all year again this year. And I started back in 1990 when the quarterback was Randall Cunningham. And I compared Jalen Hurts to Randall Cunningham last week in that they both make amazing plays with their legs. Hurts had 10 rushing touchdowns this past year. Randall never had 10 rushing touchdowns in a given season. And I think people underestimate what that contribution meant to the Eagle offense last year.
Yeah.
If they're going to throw the ball more than they did last season, and everybody seems to believe that's the case, and if you believe the owner, that's the way you win in the National Football League. So that's why they paid Mr. Brown $25 million per. We're all assuming they're going to throw the football more this year, which means they're going to run it less. And part of that running it less is Jalen Hurts running it less. If they do that, how much will subtracting what Jalen did with his legs last year actually hurt the Philadelphia Eagle offense? And will the fans even notice it? Because I know they noticed it when Randall did it, but no one talked about, this guy's the second best running quarterback in the National Football League behind only Lamar Jackson last year. It kind of went under the radar for me. Is it a bigger deal this year?
I think if you want to beat the good teams, you've got to do it through the air. I think we saw that in the Buccaneers game. We saw that every good team they played last year, they were able to kind of contain Jalen Hurts' running ability. I think Jalen Hurts is still going to be really dangerous near the goal line if they do decide to be more of a passing offense. And that's where he really shines as a weapon, is inside the 10-yard line. You just don't know whether he's going to throw it or tuck it and run. And so in that case, I think you still have a really valuable weapon there, and teams are still going to have to game plan for Jalen Hurts as a runner too. So I think the addition of AJ Brown just is so huge for opening things up for this offense. And I don't think that Eagles fans will miss Jalen Hurts' running ability if he's targeting AJ Brown and Devontae Smith is piling up 1,200 yards of receiving yards. And you've got Quez Watkins as a number 3 receiver who's got 800 yards receiving and 4 or 5 touchdowns. I think Eagles fans just want to see this team beat good teams. And I think when you do that, they don't really care whether it's Jalen Hurts running for 100 yards and 2 touchdowns or whether he's throwing for 300 yards and 3 touchdowns. They'll take it however they can get it. And for the Eagles' sake and for the fans' sake, it's better if Jalen Hurts is able to do a little bit of both in 2022, which he just wasn't able to do really at all last year.
John, last one from me. You can read John, obviously, at Bleeding Green Nation. Listen to him. On the Enemy podcast. He had a good one this week, actually.
Yeah, I hope
I didn't drag you down too much, John.
It's a pleasure having you on.
I was on there, so everybody listened to that. Let's end it on a pessimistic note. Why not? I think everyone looks at this team, and rightfully so, says, well, they're better than what they were last year. So last year was what it was. They were a playoff team. You can say the schedule, but the schedule looks easy this year. They were disappointing, obviously, in Tampa Bay. They should be better. They added A.J. Brown, Hassan Reddick, Jordan Davis, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So that's all good. We know how this works out. We've seen Eagles teams hype before. You mentioned Peter King. This is a top 10 team. If they take a step back, how does that happen, John? Besides the obvious of injuries, what makes this team not reach its ceiling?
Jalen Hurts. I really wish there was a better answer than that, or a more detailed answer than that. But if Jalen Hurts struggles, then this team doesn't reach where they want to go. Or I guess I'll add one other thing. We still have no idea if Jonathan Gannon can coach a defense. Last year, they were able to kind of mitigate points, but they allowed good quarterbacks to do whatever they wanted against that defense. Now, again, the schedule is very much in their favor. It's really hard to see how this Eagles team doesn't win at least 9 games this year, given the schedule that they have. But that being said, if the defensive line doesn't perform the way we think it will, Brandon Graham comes back and he's just not effective, and they're not getting to the quarterback. And if this hybrid scheme that Jonathan Gannon wants to run just takes a year for everybody to kind of get their feet under them, and it's a little bit of a mess, that could be one of the ways you see this team really stumble. And the other is if Jalen Hurts just doesn't improve throwing the football. But even last year when he wasn't throwing the football very well, they were still good enough to score points. So I think we saw Nick Sirianni be able to be flexible enough to change the offense around when his passing offense didn't work. And I think he would do that again if the same thing were to happen. So I don't think it's likely that we see this team drop to 6 or 7 wins. But if it happens, it's because Jonathan Gannon doesn't know what he's doing on defense and Jalen Hurts is struggling.
One of the things I did like about Nick Sirianni in his first year was when he needed to adjust, he adjusted.
Yeah.
They got off to the slow start. Everyone was worried. He came out, and at least within the team meetings, then we could evidence ourselves on Sundays, we got to run the football. Right now, we're not throwing it well enough for varying reasons. But if we want to try and win, we got to run, even though we'd prefer our default setting is to throw it as many times as we're throwing it.
Right.
The fault is in losing needs to change. And they did. They ran the football more. They won more. They ended up making the playoffs. So good on Sirianni in that he was willing to adjust. Yep. And we even saw it way back in camp. Johnny and I did the shows last year when he was there every day. And John used to note, the coach keeps going to a 2 tight end set. Even though they've said they want to get away from the 2 tight end set, they keep putting 2 tight ends out there. Why? Because they might be the 2 best wide receivers on the team, team right now. Don't know how much he's going to use a 2 tight end set this year because Goddard is the man. There's no Zach Ertz here. Mm-hmm. But they're going to do it at times. And cross your fingers, Goddard stays healthy all year long, but injuries happen to everybody. What do you think the pecking order is at backup tight end for the Eagles this year? If you want to call it TE2, TE3, the developmental tight ends and the like, how would you look at the Eagles depth chart at tight end after Goddard if they need to have those guys step up and contribute?
It's funny. With Zach Ertz going to Arizona and actually having a really good season out there, I think kind of surprised everybody how productive he was out there. I think they really like Tyree Jackson. I think if he hadn't gotten hurt last year, he definitely would have seen some more target. He would have seen some more tight end sets. It's a shame Richard Rodgers isn't here. We're pouring out for Richard Rodgers, who seemed to be a perennial
still
tight
here
end.
technically.
Is he still here?
Yeah, he's still here.
Okay.
Still here.
Okay. All right.
But he's behind the glass, so they might they might have to. I think he's it's a sci-fi film. They have these tubes in the back.
Yeah.
Julian Vanderbilt is still back there. Richard Rodgers is in that crew.
He's in some kind of formaldehyde jar where they're just kind of waiting to break him out. And Jack Stoll, I think, is actually number 2 on the depth chart in some places I've seen. But I think Tyree, if Tyree is healthy, I think he probably offers the most upside as the second tight end. And so it depends what Nick Sirianni wants to do with them, too, if he wants them to be passers or if he wants them to be run blockers mostly. But Tyree Jackson is the more interesting of the backup tight ends. He'd be the guy that I would want to see the most in training camp and in the preseason games, because if they're not going to play their starters, which it certainly doesn't sound like they're going to do, might see a lot of run from Tyree Jackson as tight end 1. He'd probably be my choice to be the backup if all things are being equal.
Nah, I went and hyped your podcast, and you get McMullen on as a guest, and now I have to question.
Now we got to get Jody on now. Yeah, that's right.
Anytime, buddy. You've been good enough to come on with us. Anytime I can come on with you, that's perfectly fine.
Wonderful.
You'll get even less views if you put me on than you did McMullen. But we'll give it a shot if you want to go down that road. John, we appreciate you coming down our road with us. We will certainly be getting you back during the offseason when the Eagles are in a camp and we get a little closer to the regular season. Thanks for hopping on with us today.
Sounds great, guys. Thanks a lot.
Thanks,
John Stolnis. Eye on the Enemy podcast. When did he put the request out for you to hop on with him?
Last week, about all the upheaval in the scouting department, which by the way, we should have some clarification, I would think, probably early in the month of June. Brandon Hunt, which I mentioned on John's podcast, is probably going to get the job. Then he got the job. So he's going to be in. He's going to be in a high-profile situation. Also, I got big news for the JAKIB Media Network. I want to mention that, Jody. JAKIBsports.com live, so everyone can go there. Not only are you going to be able to listen to the shows, you can still go to YouTube, obviously. youtube.com/JAKIB Sports. But here, hey, it's simple. Bookmark it, JAKIBsports.com. You have all the shows right there. Birds 365, Sports Take, National Football Show, all the specials. You can sign up when we do our giveaways during the season. You're going to have to sign up, so you might as well get it done for the email list. And we give away jerseys, tickets, all that good stuff that Joe Krause always hands out. And you get to read my stuff.
Loves to give away those jerseys.
Loves to give away
He
stuff.
loves to give away those jerseys.
Loves it. Stories on Jalen Reagor, as I mentioned, going through a difficult time again. I feel for him. Boston Scott, some of the scouting moves, on and on and on. JAKIBsports.com.
And in addition to easy access to all the JAKIB media shows and the like, you will be writing that much more frequently on the website. Who else you're bringing in with you? Who's going to be lending?
Well, we're gonna have Damo's stat package every week during the season. We had that at Philly Mag last season. We're taking it in house. It's going to be at JAKIBsports.com, and it's going to slowly grow and grow and grow. And we're going to have more news as we get closer to the regular season. We're 100 days away, Jody. So we're prepping. We're getting ready. 100 days away from the start of the NFL season. JAKIBsports.com. Bookmark it. Birds 365 every morning. And the Phillies aren't doing well, so you gotta listen to Eagles talk.
Yeah, we're ready to jump in with both feet with the Eagles, because
you got to deal with that on WIP.
Yeah. I dealt with it last night. I'll deal with it again tonight. Hey, Phillies get a win tonight. No idea whether Philly's going to win.
Wouldn't it be ironic if Joe Girardi goes with Gabe Kapler in town?
Oh, I said it on my CBS show on Sunday. If they are swept by the Giants, after they had lost Sunday night to the Mets, found a new way to lose. Oh, then they recreated it again last night with the Giants. If he gets swept out by Kapler, I don't see how he survives this week, J-Mac. I really think there's a potential managerial change before the week comes and goes. All right, we're not changing anything other than our second guest. We'll punch up Chris Franklin from NJGut.com in hour number 2. He's Mac. I'm Mac. You got Birds 365 here on the JAKIB Media YouTube channel.
Go for the pulls and the pools. Go for the oohs and the ahs. Go for the bubbles and the bubbly. Go for the story and the stories. Go for the win. Go to Ocean Casino Resort. Book your trip at theoceanac.com.
On the field of life, First Trust Bank is there for you.
Champions on 3. 1, 2, 3.
Because Philadelphia dreams deserve a Philadelphia bank.
At Stateside Vodka, every new customer gets the world's best rocks glass, free.
You're telling me that bottle is cut in half?
You could say that.
At Action News, we cherish every moment, and it's our profound responsibility to bring you closer to your world. Never miss a moment. Trust the people at Action News.
All right, did you know I was the Mommy Slam Dunk Champion?
Really?
Yes, really, don't sound so surprised.
Let's see it.
Oh, you're ready. All right, here we go. Let's hear the crowd. So go to right, go to left, fake 'em out. Mama, go up, mama!
She did it.
Again?
You can't avoid gravity, but United Healthcare can help you avoid financial surprises by helping you compare costs and doctor quality ratings. United Healthcare.
Uh-huh.
Go for the midnight dares. Go for the game. Go for the hits. Go for the fans. Go for the win. Go to Ocean Casino Resort. Book your trip at theoceanac.com.
Appreciate you streaming on into the deep end of the pool here with us Birds fans on Birds 365. McMullen and McDonald here on a day after a lengthy holiday weekend where everybody is getting back to work, including the Philadelphia Eagles with OTA action here. John just gave you a countdown. I needed to double check. I said, is my math this bad? Maybe you were just rounding out off. 103 days till
103. Now,
yes.
I just saw it on Twitter, so I didn't do the home. Somebody tweeted it's 100 days, not from the Eagles. Thursday night.
The Eagles.
Yeah, for the NFL start of the season. I should say
right.
NFL.
Because this is one where, damn, I stink at math, but I can do this because we're at the 30th. 30 days in June, 31 in July, 31 in August. That's 92, and the Eagles play on September 11th. That's 103.
Yeah. So that's the Thursday night game. 100 days from the Thursday night NFL.
There you go. That's where you came up with the 100. Yeah, I'm tracking the Eagles since they don't play in that Thursday night game. 103 days till the first Eagle game this year, which means we're almost into double digits. A couple more days by the end of the week, we'll be down to double-digit days until the season gets ready. And with the Eagles in OTAs this week, one thing you gotta, I know it just seems like we're bending over backwards to give Howie Roseman credit, but sorry, if he earned it, he earned it. One thing the Philadelphia Eagles will not be dealing with that a lot of teams, well, I shouldn't say a lot, but enough teams around the National Football League is there'll be no quote-unquote holdouts, even though this is optional training activities. The O could be used differently, but with the Eagles, they do not have mandatory sessions. They've decided to keep it optional, but they expect a very good turnout for this. And we know nobody's not showing up because they've got contractual issues. All the Eagles are on board. Everybody is good with what they're earning this year. There isn't a guy who desperately wants to get his contract renegotiated and is put off because of it. There's nobody on a tender right now that doesn't want to be tendered and is threatening on holding out like a Jesse Bates in Cincinnati. The Eagles are pretty good at managing this stuff in previous years, but the fact that they have absolutely no one, John, that is not content with their contract coming into their first official workout means should be pretty smooth sailing for Nick Sirianni.
Yeah, it should be. I mean, that's one thing Nick was able to do as a rookie head coach. And, some might say it was a necessity because, and you had more hurdles last year because of the pandemic and still that throws of that, and the protocols from that standpoint made things a little bit more difficult. There were still, I mentioned JC Treader earlier in the show, there were still haggling with the NFLPA and safety issues and protocols and all that kind of thing. So in a lot of ways last year, it was more of a necessity, but I do think Nick kind of entrenched himself as that, for lack of a better term, the players coach, players like coach, who's going to listen to the players, going to pay attention to some of their needs. At least certainly that's how it's going to be spun. And they liked the way things went last year. So even though they don't have to worry about the protocols, they said, well, let's just do the same thing again and scrap minicamp. And, I think it's worth saying, I don't think it matters. You know me, Jody. I don't think it matters. Certainly for veteran players at all. I do think it's valuable for young players and rookie players just from a comfort situation, getting to know the facility, getting to know the city, more time together with your teammates, ingratiating yourself in the building, getting to learn people, just getting more comfortable. Anybody who's ever started a job knows those first couple of days, that's not the most comfortable feeling in the world. You don't know anybody. You're kind of thrown out in the middle and, hey, figure it out and all that kind of stuff. And then as you go on, you get more comfortable and it becomes second nature. So I think all of that is real life stuff that not a lot of people think of. But I do think it's worth saying there's 32 teams in this league, right? 30 of them are having mandatory mini camps. 2 aren't. And one of them's the Cincinnati Bengals. And Cincinnati Bengals, yeah, you can talk about the cheapness, but I don't think it's the cheapness as much as they are coming off the longest season in NFL history. Because obviously it was the first 17-game season. Plus, they were a wild card team that made it all the way to the Super Bowl. So they played as much football as you can possibly play. And nobody else has played all that. So they think, that was very taxing on the players and the roster and all that kind of stuff. So even that, it makes a little bit more sense from Cincinnati's standpoint. So the Eagles are kind of out by themselves as being the one team saying, we don't need it. And I don't think they do need it. And I think they're ahead of the curve, as we mentioned a little bit when we talked about the length of practices, and they scaled back a little bit earlier. Now you're forced to scale back. They were ahead of the curve. They'll probably be ahead of the curve now. But what we were talking about with John Stolnis, Jody, and they underachieve, all this stuff is going to be brought up. And that's going to be brought up. It's going to be brought up.
Right. You mentioned Cincinnati being the other team that's not mandatory. I don't know why I'm defending the Cincinnati Bengals here. They won their division last year, so they weren't a wild card. They played wild card weekend, and with the new
yes, I'm sorry, you're right.
There's a whole bunch of teams that have to play wild card weekend. A lot of divisional winners have to play wild card weekend.
As they changed it, yes. Longest. But they played as much football as you could possibly play. Longest season. That's the bigger part. But you're correct. Yes.
Rams and Bengals both played as many games as they did last year, which is more than anybody's ever played before. You're right. Let me ask you about a veteran Eagle guy who may or may not be there today or tomorrow or the day after, because you correctly pointed out the Eagles are certainly considerate of their veteran guys. Training camp day, don't push them, don't make them work out. If you've been here, then they're going to cut you slack because you're quote unquote a veteran. Guy who certainly falls into that category is Fletcher Cox. And oh, by the way, I'm old school, maybe old school to a fault. I'd like to see Fletcher getting a couple drills next to Jordan Davis because they're going to be playing together for the first time this year. Don't know how Gannon's going to use that defensive line, maneuvering with the guys, how often Fletcher and he are going to be on the field together. But there'll be some, so I'd like to see him get a jump start on it. I don't know how much Fletcher is going to participate this week, as a matter of fact. And if there's one guy on the team, I just gave Howie Roseman credit for the fact that, at least as we hope, no one on this team is unhappy with their contract situation. That everyone, there's not a guy who's desperate to get a contract. They're talking about maybe extending him at this time. Nobody, I think, that's blatantly not happy with their standard, their slot with the Philadelphia Eagles. But they did change Fletcher's status this year, released him, took a cap hit before it, even more so after June 1st, and then re-sign him to a 1-year, $14 million deal. Now, I would only hope that someone would sign me to a $14 million deal. But still, Fletcher has never been on a contract before where it's one and done, that the end of the road is there and you can see it. It's not a bad little road to be going down, but it is just one more year. Fletcher Cox's attitude coming into this camp: good, okay, tentative, maybe an unknown chip on his shoulder. Goes both ways. Sometimes a guy comes in, 1-year deal, kind of a prove it type thing. Does he want to continue playing thereafter? Major motivation. You get the absolute best out of him. Some guys play distracted. Some guys get ticked off. What do you think Fletcher Cox attitude is as the OTAs start this year for 2022?
Well, I think we broke some news there that you're not holding out for 14 million for WIP on the potential weekend. So, but I'm going to fight for you. Jody deserves 14 million, so I'm going to fight for you. But as far as Fletcher goes, one thing, Jody, I was a little bit surprised at is when all this happened and they were coming to this deadline and said, well, we can't give you this money. They had the deadline for paying the large stipend. They said, time's run out. We got to release you. And at that point, I expected Fletcher to at least look around and say, well, what else is out there? I mean, he didn't. So that kind of tells me he wanted to be back with the Eagles. And they just needed sort of more time to work this thing out.
Let me interrupt here because you would know this better than I would. You say they didn't look around. I believe they did look around. Any agent,
well, it was real quick. I will say that. I mean,
true, but any agent worth his salt knows that the Eagles cap situation was what it was, and that was at least a possibility. And the good agent you could pick up the phone. Listen, off the record here, my guy's still under contract to the Eagles. Blah blah. If he hits the open market, how much interest would you have? I'm sure, and not every team is going to tip their hand and give him the exact answer that they want, but they respond to good agents' telephone calls. I don't think they just blindly made that decision. I'm sure that his agent did the behind-the-scenes work. Maybe they didn't hear what they wanted to hear, and he knew what the Eagles' offer was going to be, and $14 million, that's pretty damn good. Maybe we just snack this thing right up. Is there a chance that that's the way the whole
yeah, I mean, there's a possibility that the Eagles said, all right, we're going to release you, and we got this 14 million, stipulated, and they might have gave him a time frame, but you got to make your decision in 48 hours, whatever it turned out to be. Maybe it went down like that. Mm-hmm. But more than the timing, more than how it went down, it was that it went down that way, and Fletcher was okay with it. So in a lot of these cases, I talk about it all the time, guys are willing to take pay cuts, but not from their team that they were entrenched with. There seems to be a bit of, pride, whatever you want to call it, says, I did all this for this particular team. And in Fletcher's case, for people that don't know, this is one of the best defensive players in Eagles history. He's done a lot for this particular team. And a lot of times there is that pride. And you're saying, well, I'll go play for insert name, Green Bay, Kansas City. I'll go play for them for 10 million. I'm not playing for 10 million for the Eagles. Right. In this case, that number's pretty big. 14, as you mentioned, it's still pretty big. So maybe it's just nobody else wanted to go there, and the Eagles did. But either way, however it kind of shook out, I don't think he's upset. I think he knew the landscape. He knew he wasn't getting paid. He knew something had to be done, and he's still getting paid a lot of money. So I don't think it's going to be that big of a deal for Fletcher Cox. But there are some other guys. You mentioned the Eagles. Miles Sanders is in a contract year. Javon Hargrave is in a contract year. They say all the right things, but they want extensions, and those things could sort of manifest itself, especially in the case of Javon, because I look at Javon and Fletcher Cox. One of them's going to be here next year. One of them isn't. So let's see how that shakes out.
Fair enough. But saying the right things is good. Actually acting upon it is another. Because there are a bunch of players around the National Football League that aren't going to be in OTAs this week. Even if you're saying right, you show up. That's showing up. There are guys that aren't going to show up. Guess what? Aaron Donald is not coming to the Rams camp this week.
No.
And
Aaron Rodgers
he's only arguably the best football player in the National Football League. And he's playing for a champion, and he's not showing up.
By the way, I joke about 14 million. What if somebody's giving you 50 million? You can't show up to OTAs. I mean, I got to get that I don't think Aaron Rodgers needs it. I don't think it's going to do anything for him. But I think it would do a lot for the young players in Green Bay that the quarterback showed up. And maybe if I give you $50 billion, you should stick and show up. But that's me.
All right. Well, and the other guy's not showing up this week, supposedly, is Brady. But
same thing, yeah. Show up, Tom.
But then again, the Bucks pay him less than Fox is going to pay him to do games going forward. So maybe Brady actually does have a little bit of an issue to work out between he and Tampa. But you're right about Rodgers. Come on. It's just because that's his now modus operandi. Workouts, I don't need to work. I'm Aaron Rodgers. I don't need to work out. But, yeah, the Eagles have none of these guys. None of the players, whether they actually do off the record have an issue that they would have liked to, they would have preferred to get a contract extension done. None of them have spoken out about it. I assume that they're all going to show up. Don't know how much work. Hargrave has now gotten to the point where you would actually consider him a veteran. Sorry, Miles, you're still on that rookie contract, which means you can't be if you're considered a veteran. Not in my eyes, maybe in other people's eyes. But I'm really interested to see how many days Fletcher shows up and what they do with him, because he's the only one on this team that I can make for a guy that may have an issue with it. Again,
well, he hasn't talked to us. I mentioned that, Fletcher's one of the guys that always talks to us, and he hasn't talked to us yet this off season. And we've been doing 1 day a week. So we're through 3 days. We talked to a lot of players, and we haven't gotten to Fletcher Cox. And typically Fletcher Cox would have been on day one. He would have been one of those immediate guys. So, yeah, maybe it's something to keep an eye on. I think the fact that he's here and he agreed to $14 million, I think everything's going to be fine, but you never know. You never know with money and pride and ego. And that's why I say with Miles Sanders and Javon Hargrave, same thing. You can say all the things, and Javon's here, and Javon's understated, and he talked to us, and he's used to it. He went through a contract deal with Pittsburgh, and he got a big deal with the Eagles. He thinks things will work out, but it's always on your mind. He knows he has to perform really, really well this season.
Right, because he got off to a great start last year with plenty of sacks in the first 4 or 5 games, and then the sacks slowed down, and he did not rate all that well as a defensive run stopper, which means he's probably going to be playing less on first down than he was last year with the addition of Jordan Davis. And you're right, much like Fletcher Cox, he's on a contract year. So the Eagles' defensive tackle situation, while both of the guys are very good players and highly ranked and thought of players, they're both kind of singing for their supper this year, which, again, can cut either way. Either the guys are distracted and or a little ticked off, or they're hungry and they're out to make a point with a chip on their shoulder. Is Jonathan Gannon going to be able to play that game, get inside his defensive players' heads and keep them on the motivated swing more than anything else?
Yeah, you never know how players are going to look at it, because, if you have guys who look at the depth chart and say, well, Jordan Davis is here and Milt Williams is here, guess what? They're going to be here next year. And then you start saying, well, Javon Hargrave needs a new contract. We have to go year to year with Fletcher at 14. Javon's at 13. How much money can you pay the defensive tackle position? If people start looking at it that way, and agents certainly do, they say, well, they're going to move on. Just what I said. They're going to move on from one of them. And they're both aware of it. On paper, it looks that way.
And if, oh, by the way, Fletcher is that guy, I think John correctly positioned Fletcher in not only where he stands with this team, but in Eagle history. He's been a dynamite contributor at the defensive tackle for years now here in Philadelphia, including a big-time contribution for the World Championship back in 2017. If they move on from Fletcher Cox this season, again, kudos to Howie Roseman. He did do the cap maneuvering and cap crunching that when I shouldn't say when, I say if Fletcher moves on after this season, no future money loss for the Eagles. The Eagles like to do those push the debt into the future type deals to get certain things done, and they oftentimes have a big dead cap salary hit number. It'll be zero with Fletcher Cox because he is on just a one-year contract this year. They've already taken the dead money hit with the ending Fletcher Cox's contract last year. So that does put him in a very good flexibility position going forward into 2023. All right, McMullen and McDonald here with you on Birds 365. We'll take a quick timeout, and then we'll be joined by one of our faves, one of the best who cover the Eagles on a day-in, day-out basis. He does it for NJ.com. Chris Franklin's going to jump aboard Birds 365.
Go for the pulls and the pools. Go for the oohs and the ahs. Go for the bubbles and the bubbly. Go for the story and the stories. Go for the win. Go to Ocean Casino Resort. Book your trip at theoceanac.com.
Field of life, First Trust Bank is there for you.
Champions on three. 1, 2, 3.
Because Philadelphia dreams deserve a Philadelphia bank.
At Stateside Vodka, every new customer gets the world's best rocks glass, free.
You're telling me that bottle is cut in half?
You could say that.
At Action News, we cherish every moment, and it's our profound responsibility to bring you closer to your world. Never miss a moment. Trust the people at Action News.
All right, did you know I was the Mommy Slam Dunk Champion?
Really?
Yes, really, don't sound so surprised.
Let's see it.
Oh, you're ready. All right, here we go. Let's hear the crowd. So go to right, I go to left, fake a mom. Mama, go up, mama!
She did it.
Again? You can't avoid gravity, but United Healthcare can help you avoid financial surprises by helping you compare costs and doctor quality ratings. United Healthcare.
Uh-huh. Go for the midnight dares. Go for the game. Go for the hits. Go for the fans. Go for the win. Go to Ocean Casino Resort. Book your trip at theoceanac.com.
You got Birds 365 here on the JAKIB Media YouTube channel. Have a nice shortened week, everybody. Yeah, no 5-day, only 4 this week. Hope you enjoyed your entire Memorial Day weekend. Glad to be back on Birds 365 for you. When we go away for 3 days, it seems like, damn, got to get back to work. We're not paying enough attention to the Eagles. We are today. John and I have already been talking about them. We bring in a third expert to talk Eagles football with us. He does it for NJ.com. He's our buddy Chris Franklin. And I got to be honest with you here. He's got the microphone in front of his neck. I thought he had a tie on. I was going to go, wait a minute. I know we're back to work, but Franklin's wearing a tie?
Yeah.
You wear T-shirts on a day-in, day-out basis. Why the hell are you so dressed up?
Well, sometimes you gotta be chic, to be on Perry News. I gotta make sure I was ready for this, and it's a momentous occasion, so I had to be ready for the occasion.
Formal. Well, it's that tie/microphone, which is going to be on Amazon.
Patent pending, $24.99. It can be yours today on
Very
QVC.
nice.
By the way, over your right shoulder, Chris, we got. I assume you're in the NJ.com newsroom. We got. Is that Miles Sanders and Brandon Brooks?
That's the LaShawn McCoy, the snow game. Our photographer
LaShawn
Tim Hawk
McCoy.
took the shot.
All I saw was I thought I saw 26 and 79, so I can't see it that well. So it's Todd Harrimans and Shady McCoy. All right.
Yep, from the snow game. Yeah, Tim Hawk, who's one of our great photographers here. He took that and they blew it up when they first opened this building. And I figured, why not go on the other side of the building today just to try some
See,
things
I
out?
was thinking current Eagles, but that's even better.
That's cool.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's talk about the current Eagles, Chris, and on-field OTAs. Exciting. They start today. We're not going to be in there till later in the week. But you mentioned some things about this time of year. What particularly do you want to see out of the Eagles, or what do you find interesting about these OTAs? Number one, the scale back. No team drills. It's all 7-on-7. Are we getting closer to flag football, 7-on-7?
I would, the way the referees and everything else are calling it, I thought we were already there. Just, you just had the pads and the helmets. But I'm really looking forward to this, actually, when it comes especially to 7-on-7, because I think, especially with this team, I think two of the things that they had to worry about last year was the passing offense and then the secondary. And when you look at this now, you got them going head-to-head, and they're much improved. I mean, you have A.J. Brown, Devonta Smith, and Quez Watkins going against James Bradbury and Vontae Maddox and Darius Slay. I mean, that's everyday practice. I'm really looking forward to seeing that, and I'm looking to see how much Jalen Hurts improved when see what things he tweaked, and so I'm really looking forward to 7-7. I know it's not the traditional time, but hey, let the linemen work their things out on the other side of the field. I want to see those passing aspects of the game.
All right, we've been going for yucks here, so I'm going to go for a couple more. When you get in there for OTAs on Friday, positioning is key. Who is the guy that you want to make sure you're nowhere near? That you want to be positioned somewhere. He's either too loud, or he's always got the phone going, or he's talking to somebody else. Who do you want to stay away from? You go in, you let him get his spot, and you go exactly the opposite direction. Who's
Chris,
that guy?
I'm going to help Chris with this one. He already got rid of him with Mike K.
No.
K shot. All right.
No. I missed my role by my tag team partner. No, but when overall, it depends on what move Fletcher Cox is in. Because if he's
I'm talking to other media guys.
He wants you to rip. He wants you to rip.
You got to put another guy on blast on the Eagles beat. That's what
I know exactly.
You can beg off if you want and say, Jody,
I know.
It's the guy who sits to the left of you, Chris.
I will not confirm nor deny that, but also I think it's the guy who sits in my seat. I think it's the guy who sits in my seat mainly. I think that Chris Franklin guy, he's annoying. Sometimes he sits around you. He's like, why is he mumbling so much? What are you trying to project? Chris, project. But yeah, that's that guy. That's the guy I don't like. He's annoying.
Chris is too nice of a guy to rip. But there's plenty. There's plenty to choose from.
No comment. No, I was kidding. Everybody's been real chill. I lucked out since I've been here. I've lucked out. So I've been on it as an outsider looking in at first. I was like, what am I getting myself into? But we can start to get to know people. Like, oh wow, they're not that bad. But for appearance sake, no, we're tough. We're no. You can't mess with us. Philly media, what?
All right, I tried to get you to beat up on one of your brethren. You won't do it. You got too much class. So let's get the guys on the field. Jalen Hurts. For Jalen, the last month, 6 weeks, thereabouts, has actually been okay, because as soon as the season ended and the Eagles didn't advance in the playoffs, everyone started with, the quarterback's not good. We got to get a better quarterback. Let's talk about making a trade for a big-time quarterback. When the Eagles have done what they've done during this offseason, kind of taken Jalen off the front burner and put him on the back burner, because the Eagles have done a nice job growing their roster and getting better at several different positions. Will he jump directly right back to not only the front burner, but front and center on the stage starting this week, because we all know the importance of the quarterback position does it become all about Jalen Hurts again this week?
I think so. He's going to have the biggest. He's basically the microscope's going to be on him the whole entire time. I think because you have the nice shiny new pieces around him. You have the offense. You have everything else and some new things. But when you look overall, it's always going to come back to the quarterback. Especially for a year where everybody's basically putting on him, saying, "Hey, this team has the pieces. Now they have to go make a decent run in the playoffs, not Super Bowl wise, but at least win a playoff game. And to do that, you have to start with the quarterback position. And with Hurts, all the questions surrounding him, all the scrutiny that's going to be placed on him, I think everything is going to be on him when it comes to this. So it's going to ramp up, I think, immediately. And I know it's going to happen. The first overthrow, oh my goodness, he's on. The first perfect pass, oh my God, he's the one that's there. It's going to be actually, it's a steady, instead of it being like from snap to snap, you just basically have to look overall for the whole entire training camp. But I have a feeling it's going to be that way. You're going to hear a lot of, hey, he looks amazing. He's a top 3 quarterback to, oh my goodness, why is this guy in here? It's going to be, I think it's going to be one of those off seasons.
Do you think it's fair, Chris, in the fact that I think people look at this team and say now after the offseason additions that they have everything in place if Jalen Hurts performs to the level that he should, this should be a not only a playoff team, but a team that can make a significant run. Do you think people are underrating Jalen Hurts and overrating number 2 through 53 on the roster? Or you think it's fair? You think it's, as Jalen Hurts, if he performs well, this is going to be a really good football team?
I think that's a fair assessment. I think when you look at everything, I know, and when I look at this offense and you have a running game, it's established you have that running game that it was finished number 1 overall last year. You have that in place. You look at A.J. Brown, who you can stretch the field with and opens up so much other space. Now you just need the guy to basically choreograph that and make sure you just put the ball in a position to do so. And that's where I think it really does all come down to Jalen Hurts. And we've heard so many times when you look at this, when you hear this guy and he says, you know what, he says the right things. You see the potential on him at times when he makes some of these plays, and you just hope that experience that he's gathered over this offseason, the experience of starting those games, you just hope that he basically does something with that. Because if he really does, I think if he improves himself, 4,600 total yards is the way to look at when you look at 4,000 passing, 600 yards rushing, because you will want that passing offense to throw a little bit more. I think that's a good number. If he achieves that, I think this team wins at least a round in the playoffs. I really do. If he doesn't, if he falls somewhere short, I'm not talking about 45, 5'9". No, Chris, you're wrong. No, but if he goes somewhere around the same type of output that he had last year, then that's where I think you start to see the questions more, and we start talking about, hey, are they going to trade those 2 first-round draft picks for another quarterback?
All right, Chris, will we be able to dodge something that I've had to deal with for the last 5, 6, 7, 8 years doing shows on WIP before Birds 365, the overstatement of Eagle wide receivers. And sometimes it's to blame you guys who cover the team. The Eagle fans who get a short peek at preseason practices, the few, the proud, the limited. But every year there seems to be a guy who people overestimate because of what he does in shorts and a T-shirt. Oh, the great routes that he's running, the hands that he's showing. And then we find out Nelson Aguilar is still Nelson Aguilar, and that Jalen Reagor is Jalen Reagor, and J.J. Arcega-Whiteside when the games start. There's always a guy that is getting too much buzz prior to the season starting, and then he disappoints during the season. I don't see that guy on the roster this year. Does A.J. Brown take that all away? Because we know what A.J. Brown can do. He's done it elsewhere, and he's just bringing that resume to Philadelphia. Or are we going to be talking about Brian Covey or Kerrick Wheatfall? Is there going to be a guy this year that is blatantly overrated because of what he shows in activities rather than just practices, which start today? Will there be an Eagle wide receiver who fills that void?
I think you mentioned one of them. I think Britton Covey's one, and I also think Devin Allen's going to be the other one because Allen, especially with the whole Olympic thing, everybody's going to be watching him a lot. and everybody's going to see the speed and go, oh my goodness, this guy has to get there. And then he's going to make one catch. He's going to make one guy miss, and he's going to blow up. Oh my goodness, the Eagles found their new third wide receiver. Get rid of Quez, get rid of Zach Pascal, get rid of all these guys. I think we're going to see that. And then it's going to come back down to earth a little bit. And, oh no, we always knew all along that it was Quez, and it was always, it's going to be that natural. I think there's going to be one guy. I really think Kobe's going to be that guy this year. Just looking at the way that he played when he was at Utah. I like the way that he catches the ball. I like the way that he can make people miss. I like the way he works in space. So I know I'm probably going to have to be the one that has to pump the brakes on that guy. But I think there's going to be a couple guys you'll see. And then when you start to see the preseason game, everybody's going to look at that Miami Dolphins game, the one that's not going to mean anything toward the end because it's the third. I think you'll start to see it really reach a fever pitch around there.
I think, Chris, whoever the third receiver is going to be, and I think it's going to be Quez, I think it's going to be a disappointment for this reason. You got to get the football to A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, and Dallas Goedert. I can't worry about my third receiver when I have those three guys. And by the way, I had Kenny Gainwell in as the third down back and the hurry up back who can catch the football really well. We talked about it with Doug before Nick got here. We talked about it with Nick all the time. When you game plan in the passing part of it, you generally game plan for two players first and foremost. For Doug, it was always Alshon Jeffrey and Zach Ertz. For Nick, it was Dallas Goedert and Devontae Smith. Now it's got to be A.J. Brown and whomever, but that means there's less touches for the guys that ball down and ball. One of my favorite Doug explanations were Mac Hollins. People would ask, why can't Mac Hollins touch a football? What if you game plan for Mac Hollins, you'd fire the coach, right? When you have other players. Can Quez Watkins live up to the hype? Because he's not going to get the opportunity to live up to hype, is I guess my question.
I think it can. I think whoever fills that third role, I think Quez has it. I agree with that. I think Quez has it. But I think whoever has a third role has a chance to have probably some of the more impactful snaps and deep shots, I think, overall. Because I think when you look at the defensive coordinators, you're right. They're going to start looking at A.J. Brown. They're going to start looking at Smith. And you'll start looking at Goddard. Okay, well, you're going to have a one-on-one matchup with probably a safety. And if you get lucky, sometimes maybe a linebacker that has to run over and go, oh, no, and you got to run out to the slot real quick. So I think, especially if Quez, we all know he can run that 9 route, that deep route. We know he can run those skinny posts and everything else. If Quez shows that he's refined in the middle of there, you don't need to throw him. I don't think you don't need to make sure, we got to make sure you get 10 targets to Quez Watkins. If you just get 1 or 2 and take a shot at a game, and I think defense are going to have to respect that. And if you get one-on-ones with them, you got to go with it. So I think it's not going to be so much as when it comes to numerical targets. I think when you look at the overall deep shots they're going to have with him on the inside and slotting as a safety, I think that's where you can take advantage of him a lot.
Chris, I got a cross-training question for you, and it's something John and I discussed probably with you too when you upped on with us last year, and I kind of complained about it. Kenneth Gainwell not being lined up as a wide receiver. There's one thing to come out of the backfield and catch a pass coming out from behind the quarterback. There's no one actually lining up as a wide receiver, slot, outside, wherever. And the Eagles didn't do any of that last year, or it was so infrequent that you didn't even notice it. I get it. He was a rookie, and they didn't want to put too much on his plate. They didn't want to ask too much of him. Making the transition to the NFL is enough. Now you want him to make a transition to the wide receiver. This year, it's year 2. It shouldn't be too much to ask of him, but there's less of a need because you went out and got A.J. Brown. How much cross-training did they do with Kenneth Gainwell lining up as a wide receiver?
I still think we'll see it. I think when you look at what you have on the running back roster, I know he has RB in front of his name, but I think they'll still do it a lot because he's basically going to be your receiving back. I think when you look at even when the final totals in the red zone, I think you can still trust Boston Scott down there in the red zone because he just puts one foot in and he goes straight. Miles Sanders, I think, will get a little bit better for that. But when it comes to Kenneth Gainwell, you pretty much know you're going to bring him on third down in the passing game. So I'm going to keep him on the outside and basically focus on, hey, you know what? This is your role in the team. We want you to do the best job you can at doing this role. Make sure you work on those swing passes. Make sure you work on his precise route running. So you get him. I know I keep talking about route running one-on-one with linebackers. You get him on a running back running that Texas route on the inside. That's a win. 7 times out of 10, you should win that matchup with him because of his speed and his ability to get his hands. So I'd probably say do to keep what's working with him, especially with him in that way. Then you bring him once in a while. Just if you want to run a jet sweep, if you want to run the outside zone, he still's got those instincts from his college days. So it's he go that way.
Speaking of cross training, Chris, want your thoughts on the shift in the coaching, the positional coaching on the defensive side of the football. So Jeremiah Washburn is sort of coaching the overhang players, as Jonathan Gannon likes to call them. Tracy Rocker, the interior defensive lineman, and then Nick Rollis, essentially the inside linebackers, the Will, the Mike. Sounds like more of the way a 3-4 team sets up its coaching staff versus a 4-3 team. Are we read into that, or are those just antiquated terms in the modern NFL? And everybody's using hybrid fronts. Which do you lean towards?
I think everybody's losing a lot more odd man fronts. I think you keep hearing over under, like they're running a 3-4, 4-3 under and all that stuff for it. I think I still look at it in a traditional sense. I still think it's truly a 3-4 type. Now I think we'll see more 3, and I think we'll even see a lot more 5 man sets as well too, because basically when it comes to that outside linebacker, that those defensive ends, they pretty much are playing like outside linebackers. You see them once in a while drop back into the flat area. You don't want to see it all the time. I'm a little worried about Brandon Graham dropping back there over and over, but you see it so much. So I think it makes sense, and it makes sense to do that. And I think they're going to be playing a lot more 3 runs. And then when you have the 5-1 defense, I mean, Hassan Reddick was used to playing it back when he was with the Panthers because he was an edge guy. I think it just brings so much uncertainty. You don't know where the rush is coming from. You're trying to make the defense declare late. By then, it gets into your checks and everything else. I think overall, we'll see a lot more of those 3 and 5 man fronts. So it makes sense to have a different room for those guys to get their assignments and learn a little bit better.
Whatever the fronts are, whatever the schemes are, Epsie's getting a lot of run this year. And John's been talking up Epsie since last year. I got to give him credit. He was on the Epsie bandwagon before most others. The Eagles seem to be now fully on the Epsie bandwagon. That's the only position on the team that the Eagles, in my opinion, haven't upgraded by bringing someone in from the outside, be it either free agency and or the draft. You want to tell me Blankenship's going to be a star? I need to see that with my own 2 eyes. Are you as big an Epsie fan as my partner Johnny Mack is? It seems like he's going to be on the field a lot for the Eagles this year. Is he up to the task?
I still have some questions about him. I think when he filled in last year, he did a decent job for playing both safety positions. I wonder about when it comes to sustaining it for a long term, because when you're in the short term, it's pretty much sometimes you're going to get your opportunity. It's fine, cool, but you don't know if the starter's coming back. Like, okay, when I get this, so I better get some good tape on there just so I know in case another team wants me. The fact that the Eagles continually looked at Marcus Williams and Tyrann Mathieu and they struck out both times. That to me, it still like it just almost seems like they're trying to talk themselves to. No, Epps is the guy we knew all along. Epps is the guy to fill out that safety thing. And I look at I still have my questions about him, and I wouldn't be surprised if Chuck Clark still wants out of Baltimore, it gets closer towards the end of the training camp. Do you do a player for player swap? Do you use Isaac Seumalo as a chip? Do you use Jalen Reagor as a chip? I would, if Epps looks like he's slowing down, I wouldn't be surprised to do that. I wouldn't be surprised all the way up through the trade deadline if the Eagles look like they're a contender and Epps is the one guy. I wouldn't be surprised they try to upgrade that spot too. So I still have my little questions on him, but it's for me, it's still a wait and see on that.
No Epsy love from Chris Franklin. We're going to remember that. I'm going to say this.
Towing the line. Good for you, Franklin.
The Eagles might bring in a safety, but if they bring in a safety, it'll be to replace Anthony Harris, not Marcus Epps. That's my thought process. But I want to stay on the defensive side of the ball. For the additions, significant additions, obviously, Jordan Davis up front, Hassan Reddick, overhang player. You have Kaiser White, Nakobe Dean at linebacker. Of those 4 sort of big name additions, who is, and James Bradbury, I forgot, who is the most impactful on the 2022 Eagles?
Is probably the most, and not to call defensive lineman boring, but probably the most boring one, a defensive tackle, but for the reasoning. But I think Jordan Davis is, when you look at what he can do, it's a trickle down effect when you added Jordan Davis. Because I look at him, and now you can do so much other stuff. Because just adding him, I think you have to commit 2 offensive linemen to him, to blocking him, just because of his speed and his size. So you're doing that, it just frees up a defensive lineman here or there. You just frees up a linebacker rushing out somewhere else, and you need that effect from the inside. And you had J. Von Hargrave last year, did decent. Fletcher Cox, you're still waiting to see what you're going to get out of him for this year. You add Jordan Davis to that now, and you get a true push from the middle of the field next to Hargrave or Cox. It affects so much other stuff, and I think that it's going to help. I think it's going to overall help that sack total from last year. I don't think we'll see 29. They get 40. I know that's average compared to last year, but 40 for this defense, it should be doable, given the defensive line. It should be doable with all the people they have up front. And then that gives time. I think that affects also the secondary too. So, and the overall defense. So I think Jordan Davis is the guy that was the most impactful.
All right, Franklin, I tried to put you on the spot earlier. I'm going to do it again. You don't have to dime out any of your fellow Eagle reporters, but I'm going to make you analyze the quarterbacks. I remember going to a Jet Open practice years ago where the fans were allowed in, and I would usually make my way over to talk to some of the fans, some I could actually recognize as callers on my show on FAN. And one guy said to me, Jody, I've been here the last however many days in a row for all the practices. Are you telling me we're really going to start this Pennington guy instead of Vinny Testaverde? Because Vinny could still, even an older Vinny, he could just flat out spin it. He could throw it. He was a statue back there, couldn't move to save his life, but he could still cock it and throw it. Eagles quality arm talent in camp this year. Put them in an order for me. Reed Stinnett, Carson Strong, Gardner, and Jalen Hurts. Will people be second-guessing the fact that Jalen Hurts doesn't throw it as well as one of his backups, or will he have the best arm in camp?
Ooh. If you're looking at pure arm talent, Hurts, Strong, Minshew, Sinnett.
Okay.
I think Reed Sinnett's cut. I mean, just he'll be
on the roster now. You can't cut him. He's on the roster
now.
No.
Yeah, and,
he's
you know,
getting
he's a
this
nice guy,
weekend.
That's
for
the worst
sure.
part about it. He's nice. But I think overall, when you look at head to head, I think Strong's winning out that third thing just because of the guaranteed money, because of what he could be. I think he's your bona fide QB2 next season. Or let him grow in that role. They'll say they'll have I think next season, 2023, you'll see, we'll have a competition for a backup, but it's going to be Carson Strong, I think. But I think overall, when you look at overall arm talent, I think Hurts he has a good arm. He's not going to, I don't think he has a Josh Allen arm, but he has a good arm. He can put touches on there. So I don't have a problem with saying I think he's number one when it comes to arm strength and talent, and he does that. Consistency, that's where you question it. But I think overall, Minshew has the accuracy, doesn't have a strong arm at all. So that's why I put him third. Carson Strong has a really strong arm. He can put some touch on it. He was just a statue back there. He's a young Joe Flacco. I don't want to put him with Joe Flacco because at least Flacco led Super Bowl, but he's Flacco-esque, put it that way. So, but in recent think he's there. He's there, but he can also he can throw some touch passes. I remember watching him last when it was during practices last year. You could see him put the ball in certain, but overall, I think he's 4 out of 4.
Yeah, I would, and I haven't seen him yet, but from reputation alone, I would think it's Carson Strong by a country mile as far as arm talent, but doesn't matter. I mean, it's not just about who's got the strongest arm. You got to be able to do the different things to be a quarterback. As Nick Sirianni always says, you got to have a sort of reach a default level to play in the NFL, right? From an arm perspective. Jalen Hurts reaches that level from the Eagles' perspective, then the accuracy, the decision making is far more important. But as far as, you mentioned Josh Allen, as far as just pure arm strength and pure arm talent, Carson Strong is supposed to be that guy. I haven't seen it. I assume nobody's wrong. That many people can be that wrong. But I don't expect Carson Strong to do anything. I mean, he, as you mentioned, he's a statue. He's got the bad knee. So I think people get over excited about arm strength. I mean, if arm strength were the only thing, it'd be like every pitcher that can throw 100 miles an hour would be the best pitcher in baseball. It doesn't necessarily work that way. So you think that's a little bit overhyped as far as you got to have that Josh Allen arm? Most people don't have Josh Allen's arm.
I think a lot of it's anticipation. A lot of it's your footwork and your anticipation, because if you know a route and you get a good feel of your receiver, you know where the area is going to go at. You just just make sure you get your right drop, you get your footwork in the right thing, and go, oh, I know I have this spot open. And the key thing is reading the coverages too. I think a lot of guys think you start to see pretty much, especially at the youth level and in the college level, is a lot of it's cover 3 or man to man. Okay, well, if I know it's going to be one of those, I pick the right thing. I know I'm going to throw. And especially when you get to this defense now, where you have one half of the side playing like a cover 3 and the other half playing a 2 or whatever, maybe like, what the heck is going on here? It's once you get that feel down and you get the anticipation down, and you start to read those defenses, then it just comes. It doesn't matter arms, it's just anticipation and just knowing where you have to throw the ball and what area you have to throw it to. It's almost got to a point now where if you throw it in a certain area, you can just throw it blindly almost there. You don't want to do it as much because you don't know what's different, but you can almost throw it blindly to that area. You just expect your receiver to be there and to make a play. So I think it's a lot that plays a big role into it.
All right, brother. Need you to look into your crystal ball, CF, for me.
Let me get it real quick.
All right, get the crystal ball.
Let's see.
As far as playing time goes for 2 2020 draft picks for the Philadelphia Eagles, both have had some run but been limited because of injuries. Both defensive players. Who gets more field time this year? Davion Taylor or Kayvon Wallace?
I go Kayvon Wallace. Ooh. And the reason why is Kayvon Wallace, I wouldn't be surprised if they use like a big nickel thing, that they use that one. And I think it's going to be like a couple. I think both of them mostly play special teams. That's the only reason why I think when you look at that. But see, the Davion Taylor thing is frustrating because you see he has the athletic part, the potential of it. You see he picks up parts of the game, and you start to see it's like stuff starts to click a little bit. And when he's right there. He's right there to really make a play. He's really gonna be impact. Then he's out. There's injury. Wallace, he's more of a box safety. I know. I see him more as a run stuffer than that one, but given that this history, the injury, what happened last year, we saw what happened with the safeties. I know it was Malcolm Jenkins at the errors. They missed some time. If one was missing time, I think Wallace is the next guy up. So that's why I probably put Kayvon Wallace more than Davion Taylor. But I think we'll both see him on kickoff and punt teams more often, honestly.
At C. Franklin News, Chris Franklin, NJ.com. So Jody went there, prediction. I'll keep the crystal ball out. I'm going to go prediction back to the offensive side of the ball because there's not a lot of uncertainty with the offense, Chris. We know 4 of the 5 offensive linemen. We know the quarterback. We know it's going to be Sanders and Gainwell. We talked about the receivers, Dallas Goedert at tight end. So it's really who's going to start at right guard and who's going to be the backup tight end to Dallas Goedert.
I think Jack Driscoll is going to wind up winning that job out.
Oh, you're as crazy as he is. Isaac is the man. He's going to be the right
crazy as me or Jack Driscoll?
Stop getting Eagle fans all worked up into a lather. Isaac Seumalo is going to be their right guard. It's not 4 out of 5. It's 5 out of 5. The Eagle offensive line is set. Isaac Seumalo is going to be their right guard.
By the way,
don't
Mike
make
Kay,
Eagle fans crazy with this.
Mike Kay, who I mentioned, I'm going to mention him again. He just put out his post June 1st potential cuts for the Pro Football Network. Isaac Sayamalo's on that list. Blame Mike K, Jody McDonald.
Not happening. Mike K.
I don't.
You, Mike K, the three of you guys, after Isaac plays a good first game of the season, opening night, you're all going to have to say, we're sorry to all you Isaac Sayamalo fans, which I'm one, for even contemplating having a season with Isaac not being locked in at right guard for the Eagles.
I'm not thrilled. So I didn't say I was thrilled about Driscoll, but I just look at the way everything's filled out. I question about his durability, and I think he's a better tackle than he is guard.
Sayamalo gets hurt, Driscoll gets hurt, and it's Sua Opeta. How about that?
Or can I see? I don't see. The thing is, I don't have a problem with Sua. I really don't. I think for what he is, I think it like that. I like Sayamalo a lot. It's just a matter of he's more of a left guard. He played. I know he played right guard. I think it's like 2018, 2019. He played a couple snaps, something like that. There,
he played right tackle. He's played everywhere. Isaac's very versatile.
And I think so. He's a big part. He's helped Jordan Mailata talk about how much he's helped him out there. I just think I would be surprised if he uses a trade chip, if anything. Granted, but a general manager say like, "Oh wow," if we're talking about it, general manager probably, "Oh, they're just going to release him and trade him." So,
they're not trading Isaac.
Tight end 2, Chris Franklin.
Tight end 2. I'll go on a limb. I'll say Grant Calcaterra. I think because when you look at true tight ends, I know you still have Richard Rodgers on there. I see Richard Rodgers on there. Jay Jaw, I just don't see him as the guy. And Jack Stoll, I think he's a good third tight end if they want to use him toward the goal line, 3 tight end sets. Okay, I'm cool with that. But I think overall, I think Calcaterra is more of a pure guy, especially if they're going to throw a little bit more. Then that's your guy. That's your guy. I think you use for in a route run. I think he'll be surprising on that one too. They do need a blocking, a pure blocking tight end. That's why I think Rodgers sticks around there or Stoll improves in that area. But I'll go Calcaterra's too.
Last thing for both of you doubters. I'm setting the over-under at games started at right tackle for Isaac Sayamalo at 9. So that's more than half of the season because you always got to factor in a little injury because Isaac almost always gets hurt. Over-under 9 starts at right tackle for Isaac Sayamalo.
Well, not right tackle. 0 at right tackle. Right guard.
Guard. Right guard. Franklin, over under 9 for Isaac starting.
I see you guys got the Ocean Casino right behind you. Yeah, I'm pretty sure they have a sports book. I'm rushing in there and I'm taking the under heavy. I'll put $100 on the under heavy. I'll put 100 on the under on that one.
I would still, Jody jokes. I put it out there. I would still at this stage go over. I think Stoutland wins out. Stout loves Isaac. Nick loves Jack. I think Stoutland likes Jack Driscoll as well.
Right,
but
so Franklin, you're out. You've already gone under. McMullen, what if I move it to 11? Over under starts for him at the right guard position.
He's played 9 games over the past 2 years, so at that point I got to go under.
You're going 11. Under. All right. So the difference between 9 and 11 moves you from under to over. Chris, not going to be getting a Christmas card from Isaac Sayamalo.
He's going to get you blocked. He got me blocked by Zach Pascal. He's going to get you blocked.
Hey, don't know if Isaac follows you on any of your social media platforms, but McMullen's right. You're done. Isaac is dropping you like a 2-foot putt, buddy. He's not dropping me because I'm taking the over 9. I'm taking the over the 11. I'm taking over 13. Sayamalo starting at right guard for the Eagles this year.
I'm not blocked by anybody except for one player's dad. That's it. Everybody else, I guess I'm not doing it right.
One player's dad. Who the hell is that? Whose dad blocked you?
I'm going to guess. Can I guess?
Yeah.
I'm going to say Monte Reagor.
Got it. Because where he dropped when he dropped the pass and against the Giants, he dropped that pass when they lost. And I wrote a story about it was like it's basically time to look at elsewhere for wide receiver. And I retweeted it. And the next thing you know, like he was following me on Twitter. Next thing you know, later on in the afternoon, looked was like, well, there it is. So I was blocked. Other than that,
that's
you're not.
I gave Jalen Reagor a ton of credit after that game for coming out and meeting with the media. I gave him a ton of credit for that. Yeah. Especially in the pandemic era where you don't have to. You can hide. We're not in the locker room. I gave him a ton of credit for coming out. He still blocked me. I wouldn't worry about it.
And also, I'll say this as well too. Speaking of Jalen Reagor, I feel bad. I really do feel bad for the guy because you lose two very close friends back to back years. It's rough. And I know we're rough on the guys, but still, like when you look at the personal aspect of it, that's rough, man. And I hope that we look at his friend and he gets better, and his teammates around him, because that's rough. That's rough.
Terrible.
CF, always a pleasure whenever we get you on. We'll see if we can get an even better picture over your left shoulder the next time you join us. He moves around. Sometimes he comes well-dressed, sometimes not. We're never well-dressed, so that's why we can comment on it. Chris Franklin, always a pleasure. Thanks, buddy. We'll get you back in a couple of weeks.
Thanks, guys. I'll get that patent pending on the microphone tie.
There we go.
The microphone tie.
Thanks, Chris.
Coming to a fashion outlet near you soon. He is John McMullen. I'm Jody McDonald. We're running a little late. We got to take our final time out and come back and put a bow on the show on Birds 365.
Go for the pulls and the pools. Go for the oohs and the ahs. Go for the bubbles and the bubbly. Go for the story and the stories. Go for the win. Go to Ocean Casino Resort. Book your trip at theoceanac.com.
Field of life, First Trust Bank is there for you.
Champions on 3. 1, 2, 3.
Because Philadelphia dreams deserve a Philadelphia bank.
At Stateside Vodka, every new customer gets the world's best rocks glass, free.
You're telling me that bottle is cut in half?
You could say that.
At Action News, we cherish every moment, and it's our profound responsibility to bring you closer to your world. Never miss a moment. Trust the people at Action News.
All right, did you know I was the mommy slam dunk champion?
Really?
Yes, really, don't sound so surprised.
Let's see it.
Oh, you're ready. All right, here we go. Let's hear the crowd. So go to right, I go to left, fake a mom. Mama go up, mama!
She did it.
Again? You can't avoid gravity, but United Healthcare can help you avoid financial surprises by helping you compare costs and doctor quality ratings. United Healthcare.
Uh-huh. Go for the midnight dares. Go for the game. Go for the hits. Go for the fans. Go for the win. Go to Ocean Casino Resort. Book your trip at theoceanac.com.
All right, we're running out of time here on Birds 365. Good to be back at it. We had, like you guys, Memorial Day off. Looking forward to running it out for you every single day this week. While the Eagles are getting some actual work in, Johnny Mack gets to go over there on Friday, or so we think. Did you get the text from the Eagles yet today with the schedule? Do you know yet? If
come on. If I get 24 hours notice, that'll be great.
Above and beyond, huh? All right, but at some point, John's going to get over and get a chance to see the Eagles work out and watch Isaac Seumalo star at guard.
I'm not going to be able to see much of the offensive linemen. You got legit stars in Lane Johnson.
Did they snap the ball and then just stand up and like not move?
No, they're going to be off to the side. I mean, the center But that's not even going to be Jason Kelsey. That's going to be, maybe some Cam Jurgens. We'll get to see some Cam Jurgens in 7-on-7s and snapping the football. But yeah, I mean, they're going to be off to the side working on technique and all that kind of good stuff. But and we're going to have coverage. JAKIBsports.com. Got to say that before we get off the air. JAKIBsports.com website. Go straight to it. You can go that way. You can go youtube.com/JAKIB Sports. But cut out the middleman. JAKIBsports.com. Watch Birds 365, Sports Take, National Football Show. There's a Marcus Epps story from yours truly on there. We're just talking about Epsy. You can get it all. Subscribe to the newsletter if you want to. You're going to have to do that anyway. So if you want to win all the jerseys we give away, tickets during the season, JAKIBsports.com.
You can be on the Epsy bandwagon. I'll stay on the Isaac Seumalo bandwagon. I think Isaac is getting a short change here from too many of these.
From me, it's the money, Jody. It's the money. It's not that Isaac can't play.
I know we're running
a lot of money.
The money doesn't matter now. We've reached the stage, unless you're telling me that they're going to make a trade for Jesse Bates. They don't need the money. They've committed the money. The money is what it is right now. The only thing you'd be doing by cutting Isaac Seumalo is saving Jeff Lurie money in his pocket. They're cap situated. They don't need to clear any money to do it. Why would you move away from a guy who's been as good as Isaac Seumalo just because he's making money?
It's one of those things where it's not about being cheap or trying to be thrifty. It's about if you think you're going to get similar play from Jack Driscoll, then you start weighing the money and saying, well, that's a lot of money. You're certainly not going to pay it to a backup. So if he loses a
you think Jack Driscoll can outperform him in preseason and take the job away from him?
I wouldn't. If I were going to put odds, I'd put 70-30 no, but there's a legitimate chance. The Eagles really like Jack Driscoll. And I think now they've come to the thought that his best position isn't right tackle. They think he was better at right guard than right tackle, so maybe his skill set is better suited inside. Ultimately, I will say this. I am prepared to say this, and I know we have to go. Long term, the starter at right guard is Jack Driscoll.
Yeah. Oh, no, I'm just talking about the 2022 season.
Yeah, long term. My point just by saying that is, Jody, they like him. They like him a lot. It's not lip service. So he's got a legitimate chance to work his way on the field.
No, not this year if Isaac stays healthy. Future, yes. This year, no. Isaac, you the man. All right, that'll do it for this edition of Birds 365. J-Mac, I say we do it again tomorrow. You up for it? You don't have to go in today. You know you're not getting the email that says, get here immediately. So you're going to be able to go.
Well, you never know if that Jesse Bates trade happens. You never know. But they have to wait to June 1st. So, yeah, I'm pretty confident.
Yeah, you're pretty confident you're not going to have to go across the river today. But that means you'll be home. That means you'll be here. Means I'll be here. Be back with us tomorrow on Birds 365 in 2 and 2.
You've been listening to Birds 365, the destination for the passionate Eagles football fan who bleeds green. If it's Eagles football, we're talking about it. Debate, inside the locker room, and guests that are some of the greatest football minds from around the region. We hope you enjoyed the show. We know we had a blast. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and we'll be back soon. But in the meantime, hook up with us on social media at JAKIB Sports. See you next time on Birds 365.